Can I really try to make a miniature with only using 3 colors? I don't know. Let me listen to your war cry. On the basics. Welcome to another Mini Monday, everybody. As you can see here, I went to my local game shop. The owner was having a sale, and I bought some of these Warhammer Warcry miniatures, and these are some pretty dope miniatures. They were really fun to assemble. I'm trying to get into more of assembling Warhammer and stuff. Today we got working with 3 colors, and that will be black, white, and brown. So there you go. And before you get into it, you may be thinking, whoa, I can't come up with that many colors. And how many spaces can we work with? Well, it's very simple. Colors, you are able to mix colors, you are able to create colors. And this is why I wanted to show and have a challenge for you guys to come up with, where you guys can legit create these colors with just 3 colors, like white and brown. You get a nice looking tan. You can make a nice skin color tan with it. If you look at, I wanted to think that these Warband or Warcries miniatures, they were kind of more in the deserty, apocalyptic Mad Max world, and so his skin's kind of a tan color. And everything else. You may be wondering, like, what's the challenge for using 3 colors? Well, there's always a challenge between all these colors. For instance, it's always great to challenge yourself, because it just shows the possibilities of what you can actually do. If you don't challenge yourself and you just take the easy road out and trying to find a skin tone or anything else, it kind of just limits your personality or your creativity throughout this whole shebang. As you can see here, I am adding in most of the effects on here. This was like the hardest challenge that I have actually done. Like, legit, like, all of this stuff was like, at first I thought it was going to be pretty easy. I was going with the flow. Everything else was just putting into place. I mean, there's some colors that I actually wanted to use, but like I said, it's just that knowing that you had to get creative on that side and level. And it really puts in perspective that showing that if you were in a competition, you can use only 3 colors, and you can legit find your inner creativity within that. I propose a challenge for everybody who were to try 3 colors. I'm pretty sure you guys can come up with better tones and better things. And, you know, I mean, this is the first challenge that I've ever done or challenged myself to ever do. So don't think that this would be the only one. So I do like the lighter skin tone. What you can also do here, if you do have a lighter skin tone, you can dry brush a darker brown skin tone, and then if you dry brush that on, it can act as like highlights or anything else. He can look a different color. But it is pretty dope. Never really understood about Warhammer or anything, but I'm hopping on that bandwagon a little bit soon. The miniatures are really good. I really liked the whole sculpt of it, and it was pretty detailed. And I'm just like, it was like daunting because I had scars, and I didn't really want to mess this up. I feel like I still didn't mess this up, but it's pretty good. Right here, I'm doing some light dry brushing with some lighter. I want to go with a more of a darker light, if that makes sense. Just highlight some areas that you can see. I was more into the experimental phase in this whole video. That's why it's pretty long. But I was trying to go for more of an experimental thing, because with this whole challenge, you have to learn to experiment and try to adapt into each piece that you can try to form. Of course, I had to make the boots brown. It's not that much of a problem. My camera work sucks. But I think I should have gone with more of a black leather instead of a brown leather. I think that would have been better, but I went with a brown leather, worn it down a bit. But I mean, I'm happy with the results no matter what, because the way it came out, it just turned out better than what I expected. You know, you really want to have the positive and negative going together. So I think if I were to do the black glove or the black boots, I would have probably went with like a rusty, what do you call it, knee braces. Probably that contract the light and the dark. And you know, to make the armor pieces, you can easily use a gray. I know most people will be like, might as well make it metallic. Well, you can use a metallic, but like I said, this is a challenge. You have to escape from that mindset of like, oh, all armor pieces are metallic, which, you know, they're shiny metal. But you gotta really think about, this guy has been in battle for so long. He probably stole some pieces from other Warcry bandits, or I want to say war bands, but and you know, he just created his own armor piece, and this is what he is. When I was painting this whole thing, after I primed it, it looked really good when I primed it. It was really hard to get some of the paint. I was trying to thin my paints. I think I thinned them a little bit too much. I'm using a simple acrylic, which I think I should have just used more of a different acrylic. You can use acrylic, it does work on there, but I say try to thin your paints, but make it still a little bit thicker. I was a bit scared because I never painted with one of these before, and I really wanted to make it look good, and I didn't want to mess up. I think my other mess up I think I should have done was maybe the armor probably darker. Therefore, when I did put on a dry brush, it would look a lot more, I don't know, it would stand out. Eventually I do put it a little bit more darker, but I think I should have went with more of a darker tone than anything, but it is what it is. Like I said, I got plenty of these Warcry miniatures that I can easily use. these paints were like pretty too thin, so I had to put on a lot of coats on, and some of the coats were not sticking on. I think it was the brand of paints that I was using. Yeah, I got this acrylic black paint, and there were Anita's all-purpose acrylic. I don't know. It's different. It's I mean, Apple Barrel's pretty good too as well, but it doesn't feel like black. With Apple Barrel black, it doesn't really feel. It looks like a gray. It looks like a dark gray for me. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things that could be different from that. And the one thing that I should probably invest in is like a pill bottle to start holding on to my my miniatures on here. Because what I did notice, me holding my miniatures like that, like really hard, like I would like grip them. It would strip the paint off, and it would like rub against my fingers and stuff. And I think I should start investing with a corkscrew or cork bottle or cork or a pill bottle. So right here I am just doing some detail work. I'm just trying to get all the crevices full of gray armor. I always have to do some touch-ups on the skin tone. I think I would have. Well, I don't know. It's difficult to assess to what you're trying to go for. Especially when you're doing a lot of detail work within this. I know they say to always start with the skin tone first, but when you're working with darker colors, it is always hard when you do something like that. So I'm glad I started. I always start with a white primer. I say always start with a white primer. People say they do don't ever do black or do black for this. I think it's just a lot better, because when you're doing black, you will have to put on major coats, especially if you're doing something with white, you know. Had to do some touches on the boots too. Like I said, this paint was really reacting really weird to this primer, and it was a paint primer mix. I didn't really have any, because I worked with this before, and I didn't really have any issues before until I had this. I don't know if it was just this brand or it was, I don't know, it was really acting weird. Like it just kept on sliding off like most of the paints and stuff. Here I'm going to be doing a dry brush. I did make it darker, but I don't know, I feel like I could have done a little bit more, but I don't know. You have to challenge yourself when trying to do stuff like this. It does make it harder. I feel like I should have done a brown instead of a white dry brushing, because I think the brown would pop out a little bit more. Here I believe I am doing the, what do you call it, the sash, or not sash, but the loincloth. I didn't know what kind of hide that I wanted to go with. Should I just make a tan? But as I was looking through, it just didn't look as good as it did. It started to look more of part of the skin tone, and yeah, I had to go with a more lighter coat. I did do more of a wet blending, and wet blending essentially as long as the paint is wet, you can essentially form it into a wet blend. I want to say it's not really a wet blend either, because I used the whole thing and it's not really wet blending. I will probably be covering wet blending in a future video, but see, you can kind of see, you have to like make it kind of like the same, like, yeah, see, I just covered it. It's not even wet blending at all, but I wanted to be more of a darker tan. It just did not look as good. Right here, I was having some challenges right here, and you know, it's always best if you just step back and just take a break, and then you can kind of just like see how your workflow begins, because it is challenging just to not see your miniature come to life the way you want it. So it's really hard to assess and everything else. So I recommend that. Right here, I am doing some dry brushing onto the boots. I wanted to look like they were weathered, you know, that he's been out there fighting, he's been collectively destroying things. I kind of put a little bit too much of the tan on there, but not to worry. If you do put too much, just put some of the brown back onto it, the original color, and just do another dry brushing of that. It will fade away like it was nothing there, but it does make a nice effect of knowing that there is both contrasting and stuff. As long as you weather something or make it look weathered, your piece will stand out pretty exponentially. So far, I'm kind of impressed with this piece about how it came about. I like it a lot. Here, I'm just doing another dry brushing. I think I went with a darker dry brushing of black, maybe making everything stand out. Like I said, it is pretty hard when you only have 3 colors. I think I should have went with a tan dry brushing, heading up against that chest piece over there. Maybe it look like a false metallic, if you know what I mean. You know, something that will stand out. Because you really want contrasting colors between back and forth of like a positive and a negative. And it's called peacocking, if you would say. And you would want your character to peacock. If it were the colors that I would choose the belt and the sash right here, or the whatever his makeshift belt, into a red belt. I know. Ever since I saw the cover of Warcry, it's all red, so I do like to see the crimson on there. It would be dope to see more of a crimson color onto him. Then after we got that, I am going to go ahead and paint the sword with a light gray. It was really hard to think about what swords do look like, you know. Well, I know what a sword looks like. But when you're painting in a way like this, you just have to use your imagination and just think of when you're 4 years old and you're creating someone with a sword and you use gray, you know. This is what I used to have before I even discovered metallics, pretty much. When I was first making my miniatures, I was trying to add a mixture of both gray and dark gray. Maybe get like a a mixture of both. But like I said, this whole piece was more of an experimental. It's pretty hard when you're limited with most things, but after a while, you do get your creative juice flowing. And you just have to use your imagination. Like this piece took me 2 hours to make, and I'm pretty impressed. I feel like I could have gone a little bit more further than that. But with the results that this is being my first tester piece, I'm pretty impressed. I did add a little bit of black. I wanted to see what it looked like with the black on the sword. I think at some point I did just stop with the black. I think I did go over it with just the gray. I think I do dry brush it with a light gray. And let's just make that handle black, or what do you call it? The sword guard. Is it a sword guard or shield guard? I think it's a sword guard. And do some touch-ups with the hair. Here, I thought I could do some, I don't know, little details by making the buttons black on there. It doesn't really last long. Like I said, this piece was whole experimental. Maybe it would make it look cool. I was doing some brown on there, on the back side. Who knows what this whole piece will be about, you know? It's crazy to know. This will be a fun game to play. I don't know if it was I don't know what type of game it is. I do have all the pieces. It does come in a bunch of pieces. Would be dope. But this guy's pretty he's pretty big for a guy. He could be a for DD standard. I mean, it's still 28 mil, but he is pretty big for a guy. He could be a barbarian or a Goliath barbarian type stuff, because he's pretty huge. Here I'm just doing some touch-ups. I was thinking about doing a light gray, like I said. This is when I got to the whole point of, like, maybe he did collect his whole armor pieces from different people and stuff, and he's just a what do you call it, a scavenger, you know, of a war band. He's like, I killed this great man with this sword. Who knows? Who knows? I've been having to do a lot of touch-ups. It just felt like the paint was melting, even though it wasn't. I don't know. I think I didn't have my fan on either, so I wasn't really drying much. So every time that I was moving it, it was just kind of hard to make all the pieces fit. I do recommend having a fan next to you. Make sure that your paints are not nearby it, because that will dry out your paints pretty fast. But I do recommend having a fan near your miniature, so the paints can pretty dry fast on your miniature. Especially if you're going to be coating other paints onto there, you would want a quick paint dry before you can start setting up another color. Right here, I am just setting up. I am just using this brown to my advantage. You can see that there is a lot of contrasting between a light brown, dark brown, black, gray into it. And it's pretty much coming together. I mean, it's my other for everything else is just painting on the details. Here I decided to go with a not really a highlight, but just like more of a brown on the other sides on the sash and everything, just to bring out some of the hide that he's got for his what do you call it, loincloth. And here I'm adding more of a darker gray onto the face. When I was adding this darker gray, it kind of got me a great idea. I was like, maybe I should paint like a war face paint onto him. That would be dope and everything. Because it was a whole different color that I was trying out. And it was pretty nice. I added some there. And here I went with a lighter color to hit up on the chest piece again. Like I said, I've been trying to experiment. This is just me weathering everything and dry brushing. And here with that gray, just hitting up that chainmail right there. Hitting up some of that gray on the corner. Some of that light gray right there. With all these interconnecting pieces, it does kind of get a little bit overwhelming of like, oh, which piece did I forget? What piece did I get? And here I decided to paint this rock that he's on. I did with a dark gray. I did hit it up with a light dry brushing of a whiter gray. It does go better with that, and it just makes the piece kind of just stand out. I was going to make it a brown rock, but putting brown on brown doesn't really make sense. And just to be careful right there, just make sure you not to hit the rock. I think I should have hit the rock first and then use his boot, but sometimes you just make mistakes first. I highly recommend if you just do the rock first and then the boot. I'm just hitting it up with some more dark gray brush. I was pretty indecisive of what I should put on the armor. Here I got the white. There was a bone onto him, so it just straight up makes sense just to make the bone white. It doesn't have to be an exact white bone, but I feel like that if you do hit it up with some like a dark gray or anything else, it can be weathered down into a non-light white bone. But if you're contracting with all these colors, it does stand out more by making it white. And then that's when I was like trying to be more creative with it. Then I was like, you know what, this guy should have face paint, so I was gonna paint his face white and make it look like a skull. The one time that I think I did mess up, I wanted to make it look like how Heath Ledger's face paint was coming off during the time when he was being interrogated. I was trying to make it look like that his face paint is just on there as long as he can before he can repaints up. Sometimes it's crackly and stuff. What I think I should have done was put more of a dry brushing onto his face, and then probably did like a dry brush of black, or I should have just painted everything up black and probably did like a white dry brushing of the face for skulls. I at first I didn't like it at first. I still don't really like it. I think I can do some touch-ups. I know I can do better, but this is my attempt of making a skull face paint. I know what I did wrong. I will definitely be making another video on a different character of making this skull face paint. of me fixing it, he just looks like a juggalo from the Insane Clown Posse. See, and that paint just keeps on coming off, so I highly recommend you get a pill bottle too. But I just been working on that face paint for a long time. I just know that. But the finished face paint that I do got, it's alright. He still looks like a juggalo, but it looks like his face got melted off, I think. This is me just adding a bunch of not highlights, but Mod Podge onto the pieces that I wanted to stay. So I thought I'd just be hitting up with the boots and the sword for now, because I knew that I like what I was seeing. The cool thing is, cool thing is like when you do hit something up with that, you can easily paint over. And as you can see that I messed up there, I got some black on the boot, but don't worry. As long as you got a dry brush, you can easily swipe that off. I didn't see it in the front, so we'll just keep that as our little secret right there, if you know what I mean. And here's me working on the face. You know, I think I should have just kept that part and just kept some of the white, but I just kept on going and going. And I was like, nah, I think I could fix it. I suck with faces. I really do. I don't really paint the faces. But I thought this face paint, or at least the face on here, was pretty good. It was pretty well modeled. But I thought I can, like, keep it doing better and keep going. But no, I failed. I really do suck at faces. I'm not the best painter out there. I suck at eyeballs. I suck at everything else. So, I suck at sucking. I tried to hit it with some of the skin tone again, but I feel like I kind of made it worse. I think I should have did it with a dry brush skin tone. Therefore, it would have made it better. I mean, it looks pretty good right there. I think I should have just stopped, but I kept on going. But I was like, nah, ain't gonna work that like that. But yeah. Oh, and here, I was like, this guy needs a wash. But it was going to destroy the integrity of the challenge of a wash. So what I did was grab some water and some black paint. Straight up water and black paint. That was my wash. It didn't have anything else. Some people say to use a little bit of dish soap and it'll help move everything flow. This here, I used water and black. Call me crazy, but it kind of works, you know. It was a wild card of a black wash. It was working with the chainmail, but see, it was like an even coat too. It was nice. It was working everywhere. It was working at some places where it made things pop. And this is where the wash comes into play, and it helps everything come in. I used the wash on everything, the metal parts, everything, even the knuckles there. I just liked how the wash kind of flowed in some spots. I do like the kneecaps. The kneecaps were pretty dope. It did have a nice little highlight in between them. I never noticed that until now, but I am a big fan of the kneecaps. That's pretty dope. That's what I like. So it helped flow into the back of the armor. Made things pop out, and the things that I wanted to pop out too. And I'm glad that I thought of the wash of the black and white, or not black and white, but just black and water. I think I should have done some on the boots, but I already Mod Podged them, and it really helps them pop too. Oh, and here's when I try to do the black with the wash in the mouth, and it looked terrible. It looked like he looked like a what was that? That one guy from Silence of the Lambs. He's got his face eaten off. He looked like that. And who wrote the bug? I guess he was that one surviving guy. But yeah, but thank God for this wash that I came up with. It really improved this miniature, and I was really impressed by it. I was really glad that this whole thing came together. It just shows that how simple that you guys, that I have done with this whole see, this is me trying to fix up the skull. There's not much you can see here, but yeah. Anyways, it just shows how much that you can just do with just 3 colors and try to mix and match and try to create. And you know, it's just, that's the fun thing about painting these miniatures. It's just you learn something about yourself, and you kind of like the way of being a creator, you know, like this. You learn the tools of the trade of, okay, this is what I got, this is what I have. And so that's it. But I mean, throughout this whole process, you just kind of get lost into it, and you kind of just want to create more, you know. And this is what I got with the most finished product and everything. And this is, you know, it just shows how much of a character that this guy can be. And you know, I'm glad that I created him, and just the way he looks is pretty dope. You know, I'm glad that I had the time to, you know, build, you know. And I mean, I can always improve. These are the skills of what the basics is all about. Is about improving yourself, about how basic most of the stuff can be. And I mean, I like him. I really do. He is a impressing, like he impressed me a lot more, and it just shows these skills of the trade that anybody can do it. I mean, I encourage everybody to start mini painting, or even terrain building at least. You know, it's fun, you know, when you can turn a piece of garbage into a hot mess. It fathoms me, you know, like most of the stuff, like it just fathoms me to most of these point and extremes. That shows that everybody can do it, even watching these things, you know. You know, I've seen professional painters, you know. I hope that you guys do become professionals, because I'm not nowhere near good. But you know, these are the things that you want to convey and show off and say, hey, this is what my character represents, and this is what it is. You know, you can add more details and add more, but this is what your imagination comes from, and this is how it turns, you know. But if you do like watching more of these mini Mondays, I hope you do subscribe and watch more, because I got plenty more, and Terrain Thursdays too. So I really do hope you like and enjoy. Alright, I appreciate it.